Yes, so I want you to keep all of this in mind. Let's assume these numbers are correct. Obscure Wanderer is in 2 weeks. That's Moina. Very important unit. Highly recommend pulling for him. Xiaohei collab, free unit, nothing to worry about. It's just a mini event with some very easy stages, very beginner friendly. Nearlight rerun, obviously it's a limited event rerun, so there's no banner associated with that, so you don't need to worry about that. If the unknown event after Nearlight is the new chapter, that's Stainless. While he is a good unit and he is one of the better support units in the game, because he's stuck between Moina and Texas, you may need to skip him. Now, there will be an opportunity to get him at a boosted rate with the Joint Ops banner, the next story Joint Ops banner. However, that requires waiting for another few chapters to come out. So it's not going to be for some time. And it will be a 33% rate rather than the 50% on the solo. For free to play, can I get Moina and then 300 pulls until... so you've got around 100 at the moment. Yes, as long as you don't do much on Texas. Yes, Texas Alta banner. Legacy units are W, Rosmontis, Skadi, and Radiant Nell. Very good crop of legacy units. So if you're someone wanting to go 300 on a banner, it's a very good one to go 300. Because decent chance you might get one of them. Perhaps it's one of the ones that you want and then you can buy the other one, etc, etc. Just don't do what I did. Don't do 300 pulls and not get Texas and be forced to buy Texas, right? You just don't do that. Just don't do that. Just pull better, all right? Just pull better. Then, Moina or Texas. All right, so here's the thing. Texas is limited, which means after she goes, she's much harder to get. So, if you absolutely have to prioritize one, and you want both in the long run, you gotta go for Texas. Because Moina will be much easier to get going forward. Levies! Happy anniversary, 12 months. Thank you very much for the sub with the Prime Gaming, and glad to entertain you. By the way, Levies, we still need to chat about that project you proposed. When you've got the time, let's perhaps organize an online chat, because I'm very keen to do that. Okay, yes, so if you want Texas and you want Moina, you should absolutely prioritize Texas, because once she goes, it's really painful to have to get her again. Whereas you're saving up 300 pulls to get Moina on a standard banner, you're much more likely to get him, much earlier than 300. Whereas with Texas, you're probably gonna have to go 300 on a rerun. So, yeah, that's your options. Also, Texas is a bit more unique with skill 3. If that's the way you're thinking about it. No, Moina is not limited. About 4 to 6 months, I think it's maybe even 4 months after release, he will rerun on a solo banner. Standard banner, not solo. He does not get a solo rerun. Very important to keep in mind. There's no solo rerun for him because it is it's a mini event. Also keep in mind that with Texas, you've got Penance on the same banner. She's a very fun unit to use. Similar to Mudrock, there are certain situations where she is absolutely invincible, although she's not as widely usable as Mudrock. Mudrock's outright invincibility with the shield is stronger than it's more flexible than Penance's just simply tanky shield. I think, judging by the datamine, it looks like Moina is next. And there will be almost no gap between Dorothy and Moina. According to the datamine, we might get 2 days. A gap of 2 days. Chapter 11 should not get delayed before the limited banner. In fact, is there anybody on the limited banner that requires the new crafting material? The salt. Because if they do, they cannot delay Chapter 11. Yeah, so if anybody needs salt on that limited banner, Chapter 11 has to come out before it. Absolutely has to come out before it. Because that doesn't get added to the game, or to the store, or to the workshop until Chapter 11. Which is probably why, if these datamine numbers are accurate, it's probably why you see almost no gap between any of these events, right? Obscure Wanderer, there's maybe a 2-day gap. 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks later, the Xiaohei collab starts. Now, the Muenar banner will still be running, but the Muenar event itself will be closed. So there'll be no gap between the actual events. Then there's Near Light as soon as the Xiaohei event closes. And then, possibly even before Near Light closes, new chapter starts. So it's going to be back to back to back to back to back to back events. No, Xiaohei is the little cat boy. The kid who transforms into a cat. Irene in ranged guard mode, AoE guard in cat mode. And I reckon they, after their colossal cock up, they finally realize, oh god, we have to put all this stuff before the limited event. Otherwise, it's just going to make things go really bad. I'm surprised. The one thing I'm surprised by, if this does hold true, is I'm surprised that Near Light didn't get delayed until after the limited event. Just so they could shell us with more garbage dead weeks, like Yostar loves to do with their incompetence. So, if this holds true, and then after Chapter 11 it's limited event, finally something is going a little bit better. Something is finally going right. Now, one thing to note is before the release of Chapter 11, that's where we get the story Joint Ops banner, which had Horn, Sally, and Mudrock. That will probably happen after... it'll either happen during Near Light, or they might even start it as early as when Muenar's banner ends. So Muenar's banner might end, and then they go into the story Joint Ops. Because the Joint Ops story banner, I believe in CN, ended before Chapter 11 actually started. Yes, it did. It closed the day before Chapter 11 started. So, if you're someone who's also looking to get Mudrock, Sally, and Horn, one of those on their Joint Ops banner, then keep that in mind as well. So you've got a lot of really strong banners over the next couple of months. So keep that in mind. We've got Dorothy, into Muenar, into the story Joint Ops, into Stainless, into Texas plus Penance. It's a lot of banners in a very short amount of time. In terms of priority, if you're someone who, let's suppose you want to get everyone, and you're thinking, okay, which one should I go for first, based on power, rarity, availability, etc. Top priority is you go for the Texas banner, and you secure Texas. Penance, she'll run on standard banners later on, so you don't have to. If you get Texas first, then you want to save after that. That's fine. Also, the Texas banner is the last out of this block, which means you'll know by then how much you've got to spend. So Texas would be the top priority. I would say Muenar is the second priority for two reasons. One, being extremely powerful, and two, he's not going to rerun. Yes, I'll upload this to YouTube because I'm never going to find the time to do a proper video for this, as much as I'd like to. And so Muenar would be the second priority. Third priority, I would say, is Stainless, because while he will have a Joint Ops rerun, it's not as good as getting them on a solo. And the Joint Ops rerun, because he's the first of the next block of 3, it's going to be quite a while before he reappears on that Joint Ops one. And he's also quite a good unit. He's quite unique. He won't carry the game, but he does support all of your other carries very well. And he's got a variety of playstyles and a variety of ways of supporting. So he's a solid unit. He's also surprisingly tanky. I've used him to tank the Chapter 11 boss. Specialist tokens. If you are looking to use the specialist tokens, I would use them on Yato. Because Yato, again, just assume that it's going to be like Rainbow Six. We're not going to get a rerun. As much as we wish for it, as much as I put it in every survey, rerun Rainbow Six, they're probably not going to rerun it. And you don't want to have to throw a ton of pulls, unsure of if you're going to even hit max potential on Yato, if you're someone who wants to get max potential. So I would use the specialist tokens on Yato. But Texas is not a bad option either if you just want one copy of Yato and then you want a potential 6 Texas. So it's not a bad option. Other things to keep in mind, between the Texas event and Where the Winds Blow, which is the following limited event, there is the rerun of Gnosis, and Gnosis, as I've demonstrated many times on stream, is one of the best characters in the game. So if you want to get him, that's a very good opportunity. It's a solo rerun, so it is that 50% rate up, and I do recommend getting him. You'll also be done with Texas by then, so if you have a decent amount left over, I do highly recommend going for him. Though, of course, he does appear on standard banners. After Gnosis, there is the alternate for Reed, who is a offensive healer, and she's really fun and very strong as well. Skill 2 that she has, which puts this like healing plus damaging fire shield on 2 units, does a lot of damage, especially if you can sandwich the enemy between the 2 shields. If they're in contact with both shields, it's a ridiculous amount of damage. Also, swarms just burn themselves alive running into you. Do we get the 6-star ticket for the Texas event? I believe so. 6-star selected ticket will go all the way up to Horn. Right, so at that point, you've got many of the best units in the game. If you're a newer player or you're someone who, is trying to catch up, you've missed out on a lot of stuff, the 6-star selected ticket is one of the best value items in the game, that and the monthly card. If you're someone who wants to spend a little bit of money with a lot less gambling involved, I highly recommend the 6-star selected ticket. It's what I did during the first limited event when I started, and that's how I got Thorns. But from here, at this point, you've got so many top tier picks. The best options would be the likes of Horn, Golden Glow, Calcit, Gnosis. You generally want to go for the more recent picks, because they're the most difficult to get and they don't appear as often. But you've still got plenty of very, very strong older picks in the likes of Passenger, Mountain, Thorns, obviously Surtur, Mudrock, Bagpipe. But do keep in mind that Passenger and Calcit are on their way in the shop, in the gold certificate store. So you're going to be able to get them in the store quite soon, which is why I generally recommend you go for whichever of the newest units, the newer units that you need. And then you just wait for the others to appear in the store. If your goal in the long term is to kind of get everyone and you just want to be a bit more efficient about it. So my recommendation is you pick someone from, like, say, the latest 6 or 7 operators if you missed out on their banners. So for instance, if you want Sally and you don't manage to get her on the Joint Ops one or Horn, then you can buy them here if you really want them. But Horn is an absolute top tier pick. By the time you get to this ticket, if you didn't get Horn on the Joint Ops banner, she's probably the best pick out of all of this in terms of efficiency of your purchase and planning it out for the future, etc., because she's so far away from appearing in the gold certificate store. She's not going to have a solo rerun. We're probably not going to get a rerun of that Joint Ops banner. So at that point, you're just relying on the 25% standard banner and maybe occasional Joint Ops banner, which is still only 25% for your CC Joint Ops banners. So as a result, I do recommend that you pick Horn out of these. If you really want Gnosis, I do recommend you go on his solo banner. Fear Meta is fantastic. However, Fear Meta is a little inflexible in how you use her. She does require some more specific placement. She does require a healer keeping her at full HP, but she is very good. It's just that when you're looking at the options here, even if you're just looking at these bottom 2 rows, there are so many better options to pick. Second best pick after Horn out of these bottom 2 rows I would recommend is Golden Glow, because she's not having the solo rerun. She was on a mini event. They always put the best units on the mini events for the FOMO factor. And she's a very, very, very strong unit, and she's a long way from going gold. So she's definitely an excellent pick as well. Yeah, you really can't go wrong at this point with picking pretty much any of the newer characters. Yeah, and then after that, the 6-star selector, further than that, that Ventus has pointed out, will have Irene, Eben, Dorothy, Posey, Moina, and Stainless. Now that's adding Irene, Posey, and Moina, 3 top-tier units in the game. 3 top-tier units on the next one after that. So every 6-star selector ticket from here on out is adding several top-tier picks every time. Golden Glow does not have a rerun. The best option you have for Golden Glow is if I remember correctly, she's on the Join Tops banner for, where is it? For the CC, oh no, hang on. Was that the one that just passed before? No, that's the one that's already, oh no, hang on, no. The CC after Texas. The CC after Texas has Unectes, Fartooth, Suzu, and Golden Glow, which is a pretty solid banner, but it's not insane. It's not an insane banner where it's like, okay, whoever you get is great. This is one where it's like it's a 50-50 on units that you want. And even then, Suzu appears in the gold certificate store quite regularly, so, and Unectes is going to be back at some point. So you know, it's not the best banner to gamble 25% on for Golden Glow. So she's an excellent option from here as well. Hello, welcome. Yeah, so that's the things to keep in mind. So back to the schedule. After the limited event, there's the Join Tops, followed by the Gnosis event. Actually, let me bring it up on screen over here so we can have a look. So let's assume that Chapter 11 and the warm-up and all that does all happen before the limited event, which means we'll finally be caught up. They'll finally have fixed the damn schedule. The CC happens with that Join Tops. There's the rerun of Gnosis. Highly recommend you get him if you don't have him. But of course, if you are low on funds and you're really desperate to get Reed plus Lin / Chongas, then you will need to save up. Reed ult is very strong. Excellent support unit. Skill 3 is fantastic in the upcoming Triple S mine. As I demonstrated with the final boss, she can literally wipe out the final boss's mechanic in a single skill. Then you've got yourself quite a big gap. And that's the good thing, is that after this block of over the next 2 months of like just insane banner after banner, just hit after hit after hit after hit, then you've got only 2 units. You've got 1 new release plus 1 rerun. So there's really not that much to go for. Now do keep in mind that there is that retrospective banner, the one where your first 6-star is guaranteed to be someone you don't own. So keep that in mind. If you're willing to, if you want to allocate, you know, save at, you know, upper limit of like 50, 60 pulls to get someone that you don't have, then it's absolutely worth it. Now I believe it's filed under this new year over here. Yep, here we go. So you're basically guaranteed someone that you're missing up to Gnosis, right? So keep that in mind when it comes to the 6-star selector ticket, right? Which is also why Horn and Golden Glow are, in terms of efficiency, are the 2 best picks from this, because you can then say you want to get Gnosis as well. You might get him over here if you've got if you've got everybody else, then you're guaranteed to get Gnosis. If you're missing a few units, then it's going to be equal odds between each one. This is a great banner to finish out whatever units you're missing for more veteran players, and for newer players, you're pretty much guaranteed to get somebody good. Pretty much guaranteed to get somebody good. However, of course, it's going to be from a wide pool, the newer you are. Right, after that, you've got Chongus and Lin. Definitely one of the weaker ones we've had in a while. Not because they are bad units, they're just nowhere near as broken as the likes of Texas and Posey. They're just nowhere near as broken as the likes of Texas and Posey. So this is not a must-pull banner, but they are two solid units. I really enjoy using Lin, having a ranged tank who absolutely decimates enemies whenever there's a swarm. And if there's a swarm with a big guy hiding in it, the swarm will cause the big guy to die. Because every time she kills a unit, she explodes for an extra wave of damage. And it really wipes out units quite quickly. Chongus, sadly, I'm sad to report, they, in CN, have nerfed his ASMR. His greatest skill has been nerfed. He no longer will sing you to sleep with his dulcet tones and excitement. They absolutely massacred him. They nerfed his greatest feature. Now he is quite interesting, specifically in his skill 3, with the ability to attack at a small distance in all 4 directions. That is interesting. Sadly, the fact that he doesn't hit air units means he's just not quite as good as just having a ranged guard like Thorns or Kibai. But he does have that option of attacking in all 4 directions, which can be really useful on certain maps, especially a map with like 3 lanes. You put him in the middle lane and he can hit his own lane plus the 2 side lanes. That's quite useful. But he's not crazy. He's a solid unit. Absolutely solid unit. Then you got Kibai. She is all about attack speed and CC. So she has random chance of bind on attack, and she also has like really high attack speed. Once that attack speed goes up with the skill activation, she's binding like crazy. She does a lot of damage, but she's not as crazy as the likes of Thorns. However, she is a very good unit, and I will definitely be pulling for her. Of the units around here, she's probably the one I'm most interested in getting. It's pronounced Chubai. Okay. I'll pronounce it Chubai. All right. Definitely solid, but if you have to skip because of the Monster Hunter event, then by all means, skip. Do keep in mind she doesn't have a solo rerun because it is a mini event. Fiametta also gets her solo rerun over here with the rerun of Guiding Ahead, because Guiding Ahead is a full banner. Not a priority pick, but if you're, I don't know, you got really lucky with Chongus and Lin, and you get lucky with Chubai, then you've got yourself a few pulls. You can go for Fiametta on the on her solo rerun. Now, obviously, there is the Monster Hunter collab. This is where we are at in CN. This has a 120 pull guarantee. That means after 120 pulls, if you haven't pulled Yato, you are guaranteed to get her. Guaranteed to get her. Which is a blessing, absolutely, because 120 pulls is not crazy. Even if you finish this limited event with 0 pulls in the bank, you will have 120 pulls by the time this event starts. You will easily have 120. And yes, you get 20 pulls for free as well. 10 on day 1, 10 on day 10. Maybe even day 8, because they give you multiple login rewards for this one. I just got mine on CN, and actually we'll do the 10 pull on this stream. I've already pulled Yato, but we'll just see what I get in the 10 pull. And then the 5-star is Alt's Noir Corn, who's also really fun to use. And he's a 50% rate up on the 5-star. There's no guarantee of getting him though, but there's, he's got a good rate, so it's quite likely that you will get him. So that's everything that's upcoming. So a quick recap on what my priority recommendations are if you're looking in terms of the 6 month. However, I would break it down into 2 blocks. now until the limited event, and then that limited event until Monster Hunter. So you've got Dorothy right now. As fun as Dorothy is, she is unfortunately in a really bad position because you've got Moinar coming up next, who is high priority, second highest priority in the next couple of months. Only priority higher than that is Limited Texas. That should be the absolute top priority if you're kind of trying to get everyone and you're thinking about the efficiency in the long term. You do also have that Joint Ops banner rerun. If you own nobody on this banner, it's an amazing banner. If you own absolutely nobody, I highly recommend you go for at least one 6-star. If you've got one of the three, then it's still above rate banner because it's a 66% chance of getting somebody you don't have. And especially if the one that if you've already got Mudrock, who you can get, who's now entered the gold certificate store, then it's still much higher value. If you've already got Horn, that's where I'd be leaning to. I don't think you should pull if you're tight on funds, because Horn is the best one to get, and Mudrock you can buy, right? So it's at that point it's like, okay, I'll just find Sally another way. I can get Sally another way, and Sally is a luxury pick. She's more for the top tier veteran players who want to push that 1% edge. Stainless is on the story event. Unfortunately, it's between Moinar and Texas. So unless you've got pulls to spare, and he is a good unit, I don't recommend pulling for him. But if you get an opportunity in future, definitely pull for him. And if you do get him, I highly recommend building him because he's one of the better supports in the game. And he really enables a lot of your carries to be much stronger. Gnosis rerun, highly recommended because Gnosis is amazing. But because he's an older unit, and if you're on a budget and you want Reed / Chongus, then you can skip. Reed is fantastic. Do keep in mind there will be a rerun of Reed. So if you have to skip Reed, then by all means skip Reed. There's the New Year banner where you're guaranteed to get someone you don't have. Assess based on who you're missing. If you're missing all great units, then by all means go for one. If the odds are less than 50-50 of you getting a unit that you want, then I would skip. Then you've got yourself Chongus and Lin. This is the one limited, upcoming limited, where I would down prioritize the number of pulls. If you're someone who goes, I normally want to save 200 for a limited, by all means drop it to 100 and just be happy with whatever you get, unless you absolutely must secure limiteds. If you want to secure a limited, regardless of how strong they are, you've got to save that 300 just to be absolutely sure. It's up to you whether you want to do that. Chubai, great units. At this point, once you're done with the Chongus banner, you'll know how much you've got to spare. And Chubai is a strong unit, but she's not better than Thorns. So if that matters to you, then you can skip her. Keep in mind, if you do want her, she's not going to have a rerun. Then we've got the Fear Meta rerun. Definitely in an unfortunate position after a limited, a great new range guard. Although do keep in mind, with Chongus with Chubai, Chubai plus Thorns is OP as hell. Absolutely OP as hell in terms of like lane holding and field coverage. They just everything they cover so much of the map together that it just becomes so easy to just hold lane and just cover anything that might try to leak. So for that reason alone, as a pairing with Thorns, very good. In the same way you could use like Moinar plus Silver Ash to sweep two sides of the map at the same time. Fear Meta, I very much enjoy her, but unless you've got some real pulls to spare, you're going to have to skip her because there's the Monster Hunter collab, and you definitely 100% want to save 120 pulls for the Monster Hunter collab. Now, as I said before, once you're done with Chongus, even if you're at 0, you'll have enough to get 120 for Yato. So you don't need to panic right now and start saving right now for Yato. You don't need to worry about that. The 120 pull guarantee makes it very generous. Yes, the new op packs I personally don't recommend those, except if you've got some real money to spare. Yes, so these 3 tickets. So if you're someone who's got money to spend, now keep in mind, while this is written in Chinese currency, it's very close in price to the 6-star selector ticket. And the 6-star selector ticket is so much better than this. So much better. Now, however, as you can see, the selection of operators on 2 of them is pretty solid. The problem with the Surtur, Dorothy, Silverash one is at this point, Surtur is the best unit. You can fairly reliably, and with Silverash, get them from the gold certificate store in time. And Dorothy's the weakest, so I wouldn't buy that. You randomly get one of these 3 based on which ticket you buy. You can only buy 1 ticket once. This one, definitely don't recommend, even though it's got Calcit. Also, Calcit will be in the gold certificate store not long after. This top one is very good. If you're missing all 3 of these, and you've got money to spare, and you've already allocated towards the 6-star selected ticket and the monthly card, then by all means, go for this one. But I personally think these are way overpriced for a random chance at getting the unit I want. So I do not recommend buying these, unless you really have money to bet. So there you have it. That's the upcoming schedule and my recommendations for what to pull on, what to save for. The blessing is that the Monster Hunter collab comes after a bit of a quiet period, and it's got that 120 generous pity. We've got a bit of a break after Texas, although there are 2 great solo banners. The real difficulty is between now and Texas. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. So you really have to budget your pulls and think about what you want to go for.